Shah, The Book of Kings. Written by Hakim Abol Qasim Ferdowsi Tusi. Translated by Helen Ziman. Transcribed and narrated by Lore Enchanter. Chapter 3. Zaal. Seistan, located in the southern part of Iran, was under the rule of Sam, known as the Pehliva, who was renowned for his strength and glory. Despite his happiness, there was one sorrow that plagued him: he had no children. However, his days of longing came to an end when a son was born to him. This child was blessed with beauty in both his face and body, with no flaws or imperfections, except for his hair, which resembled that of an elderly man. The women, fearing Sam's anger upon learning of his son's unique appearance, kept this secret from him. Thus, the infant lived in ignorance for 8 days before discovering the truth. Then, a courageous woman approached him, standing out among the others. She humbled herself, bowing down to the ground, and asked Sam for a favor, the gift of speech. Sam allowed her to speak, and she said,
"May the Lord protect and watch over you. May your enemies be completely vanquished. May the days of Sam the hero be filled with happiness. For the Almighty has granted his wish. He has blessed him with a son, born to the mighty warrior within the confines of his home. This boy has a face as radiant as the moon, with beauty in every feature and limb, flawless and unblemished, except for his hair, which resembles that of an elderly man. I implore you, my master, to remember that this gift is from God, and not to let ingratitude find a place in your heart."
After hearing her words, Sam stood up and made his way to the women's quarters. And he saw the baby, who was beautiful in appearance and physique, but whose head resembled that of an elderly man. Then Sam, afraid of being mocked by his enemies, abandoned the path of wisdom. He raised his head towards the sky and complained about the Lord of Destiny, and cried out, saying,
"O you eternally just and good, O source of happiness, listen to me and hear my voice. If I have sinned, if I have strayed from the righteous path, see my repentance and forgive me. My soul is ashamed, my heart is angered because of this child. For won't the nobles claim that this boy brings evil omens? They will disgrace me, and what can I say in response to their inquiries? It is necessary for me to remove this blemish, so that the land of Iran is not cursed."
Sam spoke in anger, railing against fate, and he ordered his servants to take the child and cast it out of the land. Now there stands far from the haunts of men the Mount Alberz, whose peak reaches the stars, and never had a mortal foot been placed upon its summit. And upon it had the Simurgh, the bird of marvel, built her nest. She built it with ebony and sandalwood, and adorned it with aloes, so that it resembled a king's house, and the malevolent influence of Satan could not reach it. And at the base of this mountain, the child of Sam was laid. Then, the Simurgh noticed the infant lying on the ground, without clothes or means to nourish itself, sucking its fingers out of hunger. She swiftly descended to the earth and lifted him up with her talons. She carried him to her nest, where her young ones were waiting to devour him. However, as she brought him to her nest, her heart was filled with compassion. She commanded her young ones to spare the baby and treat him as their own brother. She carefully selected tender flesh to feed her guest and took care of the abandoned infant. The Simurgh continued to care for him tirelessly as the months and years passed, until he grew into a strong and beautiful youth. His reputation spread throughout the land, as neither good nor evil can remain hidden forever. His fame even reached the ears of Sam, the son of Narimon. Then, Sam had a dream. In his dream, he saw a man riding towards him on an Arab steed. The man brought him news about his son and mocked him, saying,
"O you, who have neglected all your responsibilities, who disown your son just because his hair is white, even though your own hair resembles the silver poplar, and you think a bird is a suitable caretaker for your child. Will you completely disown him and sever all ties with him forever?"
When Sam woke up, he recalled his dream and felt afraid because of his wrongdoing. And he summoned his Mubids and asked them about the young man from Mount Alberz, and whether he could truly be his son, as surely the harsh weather would have killed him long ago. The Mubids replied,
"No, you are ungrateful to God, more cruel than lions, tigers, and crocodiles, for even wild beasts care for their young, while you rejected your own because you saw his white hair as a disgrace among men. O weak-hearted one, rise and search for your child, for surely someone whom God has blessed cannot perish. Turn to him and pray for his forgiveness."
When Sam heard these words, he felt remorseful and gathered his army to journey to the mountains. When they arrived at the mountain that reached the Pleiades, Sam saw the Simurgh in its nest, and a young man who resembled himself walking around it. He desired to reach him, but he struggled in vain to climb the peak. Then Sam humbly called upon God. God heard him and inspired the Simurgh to look down and see the warrior and his army. When she saw Sam, she knew why the chief had come, and she spoke, saying,
"Oh, you who shared this nest, I raised you and acted as your mother, for your father cast you out. The time has come for us to part, and I must return you to your people. For your father is Sam the hero, the Pehliva of the world, the greatest among the great, and he has come here to find his son, and glory awaits you by his side."
When the young man heard her words, tears filled his eyes and sorrow filled his heart, for he had never seen humans, although he had learned their language. And he said,
"Are you tired of me, or am I no longer worthy to be your companion? Look, your nest is a throne to me, your protective wings a parent. I owe everything I am to you, for you were my friend in need."
The Simurgh answered him, saying,
"I am not sending you away out of enmity, my son. No, I would keep you by my side forever, but another destiny is better for you. When you see the throne and its splendor, my nest will lose its value in your eyes. Therefore, go forth, my son, and try your luck in the world, but so that you may remember your nurse who protected you and raised you among her little ones, so that you may remain under the shelter of her wings. Take this feather from her breast with you, and in your time of need, throw it into the fire, and I will come to your aid like a cloud and rescue you from danger."
Thus she spoke, and she lifted him in her talons and carried him to where Sam was kneeling in penitence. When Sam saw his son, whose body was as strong and beautiful as an elephant's, he bowed before the Simurgh and blessed her. And he exclaimed,
"O King of birds, O bird of God, who confounds the wicked, may you be great forever."
But as he spoke, the Simurgh flew away, and Sam's gaze remained fixed on his son. And as he looked, he saw that his son was worthy of the throne, and that there was no flaw or imperfection in him, except for his silver hair. Then his heart filled with joy, and he blessed him and asked for his forgiveness. And he said,
"Oh, my son, open your heart to the humblest of God's servants, and I swear to you, in the presence of our Creator, that I will never harden my heart towards you again, and I will grant you all your desires.
Then he dressed him in luxurious robes and named him Zaal, which means
the aged,
in translation. And he presented him to the army. When they saw the young man, they saw that he was handsome and strong, and they shouted with joy. Then the army prepared to return to Seistan. The drummers rode at the front, mounted on mighty elephants whose feet kicked up a cloud of dust that reached the sky. The tambourines were played, the trumpets blared, and the cymbals clashed, and the sounds of celebration filled the land because Sam had found his son, and Zaal had become a hero among men. Now the news spread even to Minuchihr that Sam was returning from the mountains with great pomp and joy. And when he had heard it, he ordered Minuchihr to go forth and meet the Pehliva and ask him to bring Zaal to the court. And when Sam heard his master's desires, he obeyed and entered his gates. Then he saw the Shah seated on the throne of the Chionides, wearing his crown on his head, and on his right hand sat Karan the Pehliva, and he asked Sam to sit on his left. The Shah commanded Sam to speak. Then Sam opened up to the Shah and spoke about his son, not hiding his evil deed. And Minuchihr commanded that Zaal be brought before him. So the chamberlains brought him into the presence of the king, and he was dressed in splendid robes, and the king was amazed at his appearance. And he turned and said to Sam,
O Pehliva of the world, the Shah orders you to take care of this noble youth and protect him for the land of Iran, and teach him immediately the arts of war and the pleasures and customs of the banquet. For how can one who has been raised in a nest be familiar with our ways?
Then the Shah ordered the Mubids to cast Zaal's horoscope, and they read that he would be a brave and wise knight. When he heard this, the Pehliva was relieved of all his fears, and the Shah rejoiced and showered Sam with gifts. He gave him Arab horses with golden saddles, Indian swords in gold scabbards, brocades from Raum, animal skins, and carpets from Ind, and the rubies and pearls were countless. Slaves poured musk and amber in front of him. And Minuchihr also granted Sam a throne, a crown, and a gold belt, and named him ruler of all the lands that stretch from the Sea of China to the Sea of Sind, from Zabulistan to the Caspian. Then he ordered the Pehliva's horse to be brought forth and sent him away from his presence. Sam blessed the Shah and turned his face towards home. His entourage followed him, and the sound of music went before them. Then, when the news reached Seistan that the great hero was approaching, the city adorned itself in celebratory attire, and every man prayed for blessings from heaven upon Zaal, the son of Sam, and presented him with gifts. And there was joy throughout the land because Sam had regained his son. Now Sam immediately summoned his Mubids and instructed them to teach the young person all the virtues of a king. And every day, Zaal grew wiser and stronger, and his reputation spread throughout the land. And when Sam went out to wage the Shah's battles, he entrusted the kingdom to Zaal, who ruled it with wisdom and virtue.